Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different and kind of special. My friend Samantha Jane, as she's known on YouTube, I will link her down below, recently filmed a video about makeup that is memorable to you. The premise of the video was to talk about products that have a special place in your heart for whatever reason. Sometimes it's the first item you ever got by a brand, or sometimes it's an item that was gifted to you that just holds a lot of memory. I really liked Samantha's video. I thought it really gave us a bit of a perspective on why people have certain makeup items or why they may keep them long past their expiry date. And you know what? Maybe it's a little bit superficial to attach sentimental feelings towards a makeup product, but we all do it, I think. So I've got products I want to talk about that have a special meaning to me. The first item I'm going to talk about is by a brand that doesn't even exist anymore, and probably most of you won't have ever heard of it. Although I'm sure if you have, but you know, the majority of people are going to be like, who the heck is this brand? And that is Tony and Tina. And this is a loose glitter in the shade Gateway, which is just a silver glitter. And this is what made me fall in love with glitter. I bought this when I was about 16 years old and I was in Montreal visiting a friend of mine. I so distinctly remember picking this up at the Tony and Tina counter in a mall. I don't remember which mall, but I just remember seeing this and go, why don't I have glitter in my life? How come people don't wear glitter? What is going on? So I bought this, and I think it was pretty expensive back then. It was probably like 20 or 25 bucks. And I had to have it. I just had to have glitter. And I put this everywhere on my face. I wore it on my eyes. I would throw it in my hair after putting hairspray in so it would stick to the hairspray. I love this stuff, and it's not bad at sticking to the skin, considering that there's not really an adhesive substance in it. But I also remember that back in the day we used to use chapstick in order to get glitter to stick to the skin, so I probably plopped chapstick all over my eyes and then patted on the glitter, and you bet your butt that thing creased, but that was how we did it back then. So super fond memories of this, and I've kept it all these years because it's just a glitter. Like, there's nothing in here to go bad, so I still use this. I have a brush in here, and this was the first brush I ever bought from MAC. This is the MAC 275 brush, and this is a repurchased item, but it's only because I accidentally snapped the handle in half by stepping on it quite a few years ago. So I repurchased it again because I wanted to have it in my collection. But this was the only eyeshadow brush I had for years and years and years, probably like a decade, maybe longer. Looking at it now, I really only use it for my brow bone to highlight up there, but I used to use this for my lid and my crease. I would just put it one way to cover my lid and then flip it around and go the other way to go through the crease. It was such a versatile brush, especially throughout my teens where I did not want to be spending money on brushes at all. I wanted to buy makeup, not makeup brushes. So if I ever had to recommend one single brush to somebody, it's the MAC 275 brush. This thing treated me so well for years and years and years, and was good at doing so many things on my eyes. Sticking with MAC, the first ever highlighter I ever got was Soft and Gentle. This is their Mineralize Skinfinish, and it's still beautiful. I still use this multiple times a week. I've had this 8 years, something like that. There's a huge dip in it. This is my most used highlighter for sure. It still beats out some of the highlighters that get produced today, which just speaks to how good the quality of this one is. And I just have fun memories of this because I remember I had a friend at the time who already had a bunch of mineralized skin finishes, and I was like, but what do you use them for? She's like, oh, anywhere on your face. And I didn't really get the concept at the time, but I bought it, and I think I used it as an eyeshadow for a while, and then I finally discovered what the heck an actual highlighter is, so I started using it on my cheekbones, and it's been a mainstay in my collection ever since. And the very first palette that I ever owned, and I was gifted by a friend actually, is the Urban Decay Naked palette. I've mentioned this before, but it just has special memories for me. It wasn't available in Canada for a really long while, and then when it did become available, it was sold out everywhere. It was so hard to get your hands on this thing, but my friend Dorothy in the US bought this for me and then brought it up to Canada when she was visiting for my wedding, and she gave it to me, and I was just like over the moon happy about it. I've hit pan on Virgin, I've hit pan on Toasted, I have made significant dents in the rest of these shades because they are just so, so lovely. And this definitely started something in me. Like, this ignited some kind of fire. I was just like, oh wow, look at this. All these eyeshadows all together in one convenient package. Because at the time, I really had only bought single MAC eyeshadows. So I had like 30 or 40 MAC eyeshadows, but they were all in these little pots that it was just like, pop it open, use it, put it on your eye, clamp it shut, grab the next one. Like, it was just really annoying. And then I got this and I was like, oh, convenience, how nice. So yeah, really love this palette, and I will never get let go of it until I basically finish it up. So in sticking with eyeshadow palettes, it wasn't until roughly Christmas 2013 where I started to realize that I really liked eyeshadow palettes. Like, that was where my love of makeup was centrally located, I guess you could say. And I had spent a lot of time when I was first building up my makeup collection where it felt like buying less expensive items felt like you were contributing more towards your collection. And maybe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm hoping some of you will understand what I'm saying. Sometimes you don't want to buy an eyeshadow palette because the cost is very high. Like in Canada, they are almost all over 50 bucks now. Some are more towards $70, which is really pushing that price tag up there. But that's a lot of money to dump on what feels like a single item. And back then I was kind of like, well, I'll just buy an eyeshadow that's 20 bucks, or I'll just buy a blush that's 15, because it felt like I was adding more to my collection. So it wasn't until holiday 2013 where I picked up these two particular palettes where I finally, something clicked in my brain, something switched, and I was like, it's okay to buy eyeshadow palettes when they're more expensive, because that's where your interest really lies in makeup. And I hope that makes sense to some people. I know I'm kind of explaining this in a little bit of a roundabout fashion, but this makes sense in my head. So the two palettes that I'm talking about that really changed my mentality about that are these ones from a holiday 2013 launch. This first one is the Too Faced A Few of My Favorite Things palette. And when I got this, it was like opening the doors. I couldn't believe how much product came in this thing. There are so many eyeshadows, there's bronzers, there's blush. This came with a mascara, and I think there might have been an eyeshadow primer in it too. It also came with like a makeup case as well. I was just like, yes, this is what I'm interested in makeup. I like the assortment of colors. I like how much product I'm getting. And yes, it was expensive. I think it was around 60 bucks at the time. But that was okay, because this was something that I truly wanted. And I was just so happy. I was so pleased to get this, and it just filled me with happiness. So the next day, I then ran out and bought the Laura Mercier Artist Palette for eyes. This was the 2013 version, although they've since re-released it as a permanent product, which thank heavens, because this thing is amazing. And it was these gorgeous, gorgeous shades. I had never heard of this brand before, but it had amazing reviews, and I just wanted it. And I had told myself that it was now okay to go ahead and buy more expensive products, because that's what I knew I liked. And by more expensive, I don't necessarily mean like high-end products. I just mean like palettes are more expensive in general. And this thing is incredible. This is hands down one of the best palettes that I own to date. Every single shade in here is amazing. There's not a single dud. I remember traveling with this to the US for a week and a half or something like that. This was the only palette I brought, and I was so happy with it. So these two palettes are really what just made it okay for me to go and buy eyeshadow palettes. And maybe that sounds silly to you, but it makes perfect sense to me. So the next item I have is really special because it is the first blush I ever owned, and it was also a present from my husband. I had seen Temptalia's review of the Tarte Blissful blush, and I fell in love. I was so over the moon with this color when I saw it swatched on her blog that I just had to have it. And I remember mentioning it to my husband. So when this turned up in my stocking, I think it was at Christmas, I was just over the moon. I was astonished that he'd managed to walk into Sephora and find a product. I don't find that so astonishing now, but I think like it was 6 or 7 years ago that he found this, and I was just like, really? So when I first got this, I had no idea how to apply blush. I was just an absolute disaster. I didn't know how to make it work with bronzer, because I also got bronzer for the first time that Christmas as well, and it just looked like an absolute mess. But I finally figured it out, and this particular product has always just been really special to me because of that. And the very last product I have to talk about is Inglot eyeshadows. Now, Toronto has not always had an Inglot store. It's actually pretty new. We used to have a location in Montreal, but you had to order it online, and I just really wanted to be able to play with the products before I purchased them. So for me, Inglot was always a brand that I bought when I was on vacation. I have such good memories of buying shadows in New York City, in Dublin, in Vienna, and I think England as well. Like, it was just something that I could only ever get when I was on vacation. So it always felt like such a treat to go up to like an Inglot counter or an Inglot store and be like, I get to play with this beautiful rainbow of colors and add to my collection. So for that reason, Inglot has always just been really, really special to me. Not to mention the fact that the product is excellent. The reason I keep going back to it is because there's so much pigmentation in these shadows and the colors are gorgeous. So I've just always had a really soft spot for Inglot in my heart, and now that they're here in Toronto, it is so easy for me to get my hands on them, and that just makes me even happier. So that's it for my memorable makeup. I really liked talking about this. It was nice to like dig through memories of why these products are special to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.